Scaramouche with you, returning to where it all begins again, WrestleMania 20. Sunday, March 14th, 2004, from Madison Square Garden in New York City. The third time that WrestleMania was held in the Garden. Expected to be back for WrestleMania 30, definitely. A very momentous night. The aura in the Garden, I mean, just an unbelievable event, top to bottom. It's not as sensational as WrestleMania 17, obviously, but it did have its moments. Molly Holly getting her head shaved, John Cena winning his first WWE Championship. The worst moment at the WrestleMania, as far as me and my friend Greg were concerned, the send-off that Goldberg and Lesnar had. Not a very heavily hyped match, but definitely the worst match on the card. Basically, they just stared at each other for half the time, and Stone Cold Steve Austin definitely giving them the stunner that they deserve. Goldberg and Lesnar out of WWE after this event. Trish Stratus turning heel during Christian versus Chris Jericho. The Hall of Fame returning to WWE for the first time in 8 years. Harley Race, Jesse Ventura, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, Pete Rose even. Pete Rose, the host of Monday Night Raw in a couple of nights. Just a lot of stuff going on at this event, and perhaps my favorite moment, my favorite backstage skit at WrestleMania. Mean Gene and the Weasel, Bobby Heenan, lip-locking Moolah and Mae Young in the boiler room. Just unbelievable. A funny skit, too. Very, very funny. But as I said, plenty of moments here. We get to my top three, and my favorite ending to a WWE Championship match. One of my favorite personal endings, and the best ending to a match this WrestleMania. You had Eddie Guerrero, this is number 3 moment, the moments that define this WrestleMania 20. Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship. Kurt Angle turning heel. Eddie Guerrero, the fans going crazy. Crazy in the Cow Palace a month earlier at No Way Out when Eddie Guerrero won the WWE Championship in front of his family, in front of the fans in attendance in San Francisco for No Way Out. Goldberg costing Brock Lesnar a little bit, sparing him in the middle of the matchup, thus setting up that particular match. But Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero for the WWE Championship. Guerrero walking in the champion. As good a match as those two can deliver. The ending of the match, Angle had the ankle lock on Eddie Guerrero for several minutes. And then he had to let go. Guerrero lying, cheating, and stealing, untying his boot. We thought there would be ankle issues, but he slipped out of the second ankle lock from Kurt Angle. Feigning the injury, getting the inside cradle. 1, 2, 3. Guerrero retaining the WWE Championship. And Eddie is Eddie, and just an unbelievable moment there. I keep saying unbelievable, but this was a pretty good WrestleMania. This was a 5-hour event as opposed to the 4 hours that WrestleMania usually has. This was 5 hours, 12 matches on the card. And as I said, you had 2 Tag Team Championship matchups. You had a Cruiserweight Open, among other matchups on the card. Number 2, the rebirth of the Phenom, The Undertaker. He came back to this WrestleMania, probably his best return to the WWE. He's had several returns to the WWE ever since 2003. He faced off with his brother Kane for the second time. Kane burying The Undertaker alive at Survivor Series, the event that The Undertaker had debuted in 1990. 13 years later, getting buried by his brother Kane. The Undertaker coming back. Remember, The Undertaker was the American badass riding the motorcycle to the ring. But The Undertaker, after he was buried alive, returning as the Phenom. Paul Bearer, oh yes! And the Druids coming out. Just an epic entrance with The Undertaker and Paul Bearer happening. Their short reunion. And you could call it a squash, you could call it whatever, but The Undertaker returning 12-0 with his victory over Kane for the second time at a WrestleMania. And The Undertaker managing to stay as the Phenom, keep this character ever since his full return in 2004. My favorite match of this card, I really haven't looked it over again, but the main event certainly defined as probably one of the best main events, some people believe, in WrestleMania history. A fitting end to an 18-year journey for Chris Benoit, and something that, unfortunately, because of the details that surrounded his death and the death of his wife Nancy in 2007 and his child, something you probably will not hear much of on WWE television. But Chris Benoit, walking into WrestleMania, he won the Royal Rumble. He was the second man in the history of the Royal Rumble match to start off with number one, go all the way, got his shot at WrestleMania for the title, the World Heavyweight Championship. That and the rivalry between Triple H and Shawn Michaels, all power packing, a triple threat match that was very entertaining. In the end, expected pretty much, Chris Benoit leaving Madison Square Garden, the World Heavyweight Championship, tears in his eye, the World Heavyweight Champion, excuse me, tears in his eyes, a kiss to his family, his wife, and his child, and perhaps one of the most iconic images in the history of WWE that you will not see again on WWE television. But considering the journey that both Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit had getting to WWE, the troubles they had in WCW, Eddie and Chris coming in at the same time in 2000 as the Radicals, 4 years later at WrestleMania 20, both men headlining huge championship matches, both men winning huge championship matches, the hug and the celebration, and both men raising their arms in the air with enjoyment. Probably one of the most emotional moments in WrestleMania history, and definitely a well-deserved moment for Chris Benoit that night, and perhaps in all time. 20 years in the making, just unbelievable. A new era would begin in WWE the next year at WrestleMania 21. They would go from New York to Los Angeles, California, in the Staples Center, and we'll talk about that. Tomorrow the 21st of March, 1 week away exactly, to WrestleMania 26 in Glendale, Arizona. And as we leave you today, a look at the moments of the previous 5 WrestleManias, 2000 to 2004. And as you see on the left, Chris Benoit, confetti galore, winning the World Heavyweight Championship right there. So there you have it. Skier Moxley saying tomorrow we'll talk to you about WrestleMania 21.